What's up, everybody? It is Pop Culture Philosophers. I forgot that I wasn't. Anyway, how is everybody doing? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I am your host, Robbie Billups. It's the Rex and the Robbie Show, and you can't have the Rex and the Robbie Show without the Robbie and without the Rex. What is up, Rex?
I think some of the hair products you're using might be leaking into your brain.
I mean, that is a distinct possibility.
At first, I thought it was the video, and you had a momentary pause. I thought, oh, his internet's out. And I'm like, no, that's actually not the internet problem.
No, it's just Robbie forgetting how to produce the show. Yeah, I'm doing great, man. We're gonna be talking about some news today. That I guess it dropped yesterday. Yes, IDW is going to be cutting about 40% of their workforce. They're delisting from the New York Stock Exchange. Lots of people, unfortunately, are getting laid off, aka fired, and a lot of things are going on in IDW now. We've been talking on this channel over the last few years about some of the struggles it seems like some of the smaller publishers have been dealing with, especially since the pandemic, right? And IDW for a moment there was really trying to gear up and turn things around. Then they started losing some of their licenses like G.I. Joe and Transformers. And it's probably one of the reasons why not only have they doubled down on Turtles, they have like tripled down on Turtles and on Sonic, two licenses that they have that perform very well for them. But we talked about this, Rex, 2 weeks ago. We were talking about that new publisher Distillery, right? We were talking about how like IDW had this new wave of IDW originals and they were some good books, but they couldn't even get those books to go. IDW originals, for instance, names like Scott Snyder, Liana Kangas, they couldn't get any of that stuff moved. And when I order a Scott Snyder book and I have a 10% sell-through rate, that's pretty abysmal, right? So IDW seems like it had been struggling. But now this is what has happened. So looking at it, and my internet is messing up right now. Oh, okay, there it is. Let's see. They announced today a series of major cuts and changes in response to operational challenges to position the company for recovering and future growth, cutting approximately 39% of their workforce, deregistering from the New York Stock Exchange, or delisting from the New York Stock Exchange. They're talking about how they only have $5.7 million cash and cash equivalents right now, but they have licenses and IP that they think they can. Anyway, they're cutting a lot of costs and they're cutting a lot of people as part of that cost. In a nutshell, Rex, what does this mean as someone with, a little bit more experience in the world of business?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Robbie, for bringing us back into the real world. I prefer talking about the mess that is known as DC and the Flash trailer, but we'll touch on that later. What does it mean? Well, it means what I always thought was interesting. And again, I want to say, because I do technically work for, Dynamite, independent publisher. Everything that I'm saying is my own opinion and does not reflect the views of Dynamic Forces or Dynamite Entertainment in any way, shape, or form. All right. So this is just Rex Wang, old man sitting at home with a beer, watching TV, and things pop into my head. Okay. Happens to be about this particular topic today. So first, I think it's interesting. I understand the allure of going public. There's certainly investor money. There's usually a big cash cow. And I think that certainly, with Winona Earp and then Lock and Key, there was something there, right? The problem, though, there is a cost when you go public. There's reporting, there's the 10Q, and things that you have to continually produce in terms of data and information about the company with which to be a public company and be listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So that does have a cost. So one of the explanations I read that they gave was by delisting, they're not at a point where they can absorb or afford that additional cost. That's probably true. Okay, if you're laying off a whole mess of your staff and that kind of thing, then does it really make sense, especially when trading is light, the stock price is down? Does it make sense to continually to pour good money after bad in that sense? So in that decision, I actually kind of understand. But the question has to become, what brought you to that point that you had a cash flow problem? I think that, again, I don't know anything about IDW. I do not own shares of IDW or their parent company, I think what is IDT, or anything of that nature. So I say that with a disclaimer, but I am involved in, obviously, the comic book industry. But what I think maybe part of what happened was, obviously, with Lock and Key, they had last year that proved a profit and revenue from the streaming, and then when it ended, obviously that went to zero. Okay, so I think what they taught us is some of the dangers in getting into live streaming in what is really the wild, wild west. We've heard about a lot of issues. We've heard how Disney and other large streaming services, it's a losing money venture. Okay, I mean, this is one of the big things about Iger replacing chat. Yeah, at Disney was that there was no way they could figure out how to make streaming profitable. It was it was sucking money like a black hole. So I think IDW ran into that problem. And when you're talking about Disney now, of course, they're supporting an entire streaming service, but beyond that, you see the difficulties in that. And the problem is that I think IDW to a certain extent grew based on that streaming service, and then when that ended, or based on streaming shows of their IPs, when that ended, they had nothing behind it to replace it.
Yeah.
And that is a massive hole. Now, I don't know what they spent or how they spent their money, after, initial public offering and then getting into streaming, business. I don't know, where their money was, but without, and I guess that's a kind of other problem with being public. I've worked for public corporations, is that when you're private, when you're public, your day-to-day outlook is a little different, right? So as a private company, you don't have that infusion of cash that you can use, but you do have the ability to plan long-term. So you can start making plans, 4 quarters from now, 8 quarters from now. You can make a long-term plan and slowly build up to it. The problem is when you go public, you are tied by your quarter. Okay, what you report on your 10Q, you're tied to that. Okay, and what I mean by being tied to that is, yes, you want the company to grow, but you have to show strong numbers in the quarter. Otherwise, stock price starts to drop.
Okay? Yeah, I read that their stock price was below $1 a share for over 30 days at some point.
Exactly, and you have a ton of analysts that look at these things. They're looking at stock value. Is there overvaluation, that type of thing. So they're looking at it. So they tend to be movers of the stock price if they don't see something that good. So every public company is encouraged or motivated to show good numbers at the end of the quarter, because they need to keep the stock price up. But sometimes that runs into a problem, because as things aren't going well necessarily behind the scenes, you tend to bury it. Okay, we look at the history of companies like Enron and all of that. What ends up happening is, it's not unheard of for a public company. Again, I don't know of one that does this currently. I've known some that are no longer existent in the past, where you're going to park inventory for 1 quarter with a number of distributors, okay, to show that this inventory is moved, only to take it back from that distributor before the end of the year.
Yeah.
Okay. So it becomes almost kind of a smoke and mirrors game. So you begin to wonder, and again, I don't know anything specific about IDW, but you begin to wonder how much of that played a role. And
yeah, they were doing. Are you talking about things like the idea of like returnability, like unloading a bunch of stuff, saying, "Look how many we sold," but then you get like 70% of it back.
Let me say now, again, this is something that occurred maybe 30 years ago, but I'm talking about as naked as, hey, distributor man, I'm going to park some inventory. Okay, I'm going to take it back in the 4th quarter. Okay, you don't have to pay me for it, but I need to book it as sales, and you need to show it as a purchase on your part. Okay, and we're going to bury the part that is perfectly, because on a 10Q report, you're not going to list each intimate detail with each distributor. What you're going to show is a balance sheet with inventory that you've sold, inventory that's been returned, to kind of push off the inevitable bad news onto the 4th quarter in the hopes that, the tooth fairy or somebody will come along and slip some cash in there. Something else will break. It's kind of kicking the can down the road. And then the problem with being public is it tends to do that. Now, as you get larger, like a Disney or something, it becomes much harder, because you have both pensions and institutional companies that have billions of dollars trapped up. Okay. So they are going to approach the board. They are going to the shareholder meeting. They are making demands. But when you're smaller, there's less of that. Okay. So you don't have that same scrutiny, although you do have the scrutiny of the SEC and stuff and rules that you have to follow. But there isn't somebody looking with a microscope as, like somebody who's necessarily looking at Disney or a Tesla or something like that, because you're smaller. But yes, I mean, it can lend itself, the main argument becomes if you are, hey, what's there? Everybody in the house, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, for sure.
It can, if you're small, it can encourage that. Okay. It can encourage that, you do it so you get that influx of cash. But Bueller, what's up, buddy? Old man Rex. Okay. We'll talk later today, Bueller. So it kind of encourages that. And IDW, I would consider on the smaller side. Okay. Obviously. All right. Not quite a penny stock currently, but getting very close too. So I think that was a good decision by IDW. Delisting from the New York Stock Exchange saves you some money in terms of staying up there. Gives you some time to focus on the problems you need to focus on. Not so much worried anymore about, oh my gosh, what do we got to show for this quarter and blah, blah, blah. And you can long-term plan. As to what's happening that, you begin to wonder when what did it report? Like 69% of the staff was laid off, or 60 something. I remember. For
IDW?
Yeah.
At 39. 39 is what's being reported.
Was it 39? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought, hold on, let me look at, because obviously this is fast and developing.
Yeah. I think Deadline listed it at like 39 or 40.
39. Yeah. You're right. 39. Okay. So you're close to half your workforce. So you kind of have to look at that as okay, let's take Twitter as a perfect example. Okay. Because that's something everybody's read about, right? BJ, what's up, man? How are you going to do more with less? You see? So the question becomes, what is IDW now planning to do? Okay, which this tends to indicate to me that you're going to start cutting services, okay, or you're going to start cutting things that you're doing, okay? I think it's a foregone conclusion. I think the entire entertainment division has been laid off, which means, which translates to me is you have nothing in the pipeline for more streaming, so you can't make up that revenue, at least not currently, okay? All right, so that becomes one indicator. So you got to begin to wonder, how did you get to a position where you have to lay off close to 40% of your staff? What has been going on that suddenly you woke up and said, oh, we're not going to be able to afford people? And I feel bad because, unfortunately, labor is the easiest thing for corporations to lay off. It's the most flexible cost that you're dealing with. A lot of other costs like equipment, infrastructure, buildings. Okay, those are not flexible. You can't get rid of them. You can't turn that into cash. On a turn of a dime. The other option is discounting your inventory, but then there's a long-term concern with that. Okay, you devalue your own intellectual properties and the value of your own inventory, which creates back end problems. Okay, so you get a quick infusion of cash. Again, I hate to keep using Musk as an example, but that's what's happening with Tesla. So their sales have gone through the roof, but their profit margin has shrunk so much that you've got big institutional finance companies and pensions, saying, hey, board of directors, you need to rein in the CEO. He's too distracted with all this other nonsense, and it's devaluing our shares. So even though it brought in the instant cash flow, short term, it looks bad on paper because all of a sudden, you've got analysts out there, saying that Tesla stock is way overpriced, that the value is not there, and here's why. So in terms of IDW, you've got to ask yourself that question. So what are you doing? You're completely pretty much closing down your entertainment division. I heard that the entire marketing staff has been laid off. Okay, so what is your next plan? You're talking about saving money. Okay, I can see that. And unlocking, which is a general kind of a catch-all term you hear from, when any company's public and they're running trouble. We're doing it so that we can put our nose to the grindstone and unlock the untapped potential of our IPs. Okay, fair enough. But now you plan to do it with half the number of people you had before.
Yeah.
Okay. You haven't had an announcement of obtaining new IP. So when you had a full staff and you couldn't unlock the value, how are you going to do it with half the number of people somehow?
Well, now you're going to have people that are going to be overworked, right? Because the people that are going to be retained are going to now have to adopt more responsibilities, surely, right?
Well, I think that Elon Musk and Twitter is a perfect example. He even a guy who, he's launching things into space, he's making he's developing the first driverless car, and he's now messing with Twitter, he found out that no matter how much of whatever you want to call it, the public's attention, Dogecoin, the man could make that move just by a tweet. Okay. So he obviously has influence, is that there's a limit. You still can't do more with less. And that's what he's trying to do. And that created the controversy of you should sleep at the office, you should hardcore work, 18-hour days, whatever. Okay. Yeah. That tends to, beyond the fact that it's not very realistic, it tends to indicate you can sleep in the office, whatever. It tends to indicate that you have reached that threshold. You're now trying to do more with less, which is always difficult. Okay. And you're trying to get a cash infusion. And we all see how that's turning. Okay. I think Twitter is the best example. The verified blue check mark isn't going so well, is it? Okay. No. Okay. And everything that he's done there indicates, and he's openly admitted it. Okay. You pay too much for it. It's losing money. Your first reaction is to cut the staff below 50%. Try to monetize things you haven't monetized before. And now what? Okay. Yeah. You've done all these things. Now what? Okay. So the question becomes, is IDW really working, at that point in time? So the question most people are going to ask is, okay, you have 40% less staff than you did yesterday. You've eliminated your marketing department. You've pretty much eliminated your IDW entertainment department, which translates into what? We are not currently in talks with anybody to get one of our IPs streaming again. As you say, they're really pushing the IPs that they currently hold, which is a danger as well, as we all know. Okay, so now we get back into the comic book collector. Okay, what are you going to do? You're going to turn TMNT into a daily, right? There's a point as Tesla's beginning to find out. Yeah, you sold more cars, but you've got no profit margin in there. So it's a delicate balancing act. I don't think we really know yet. I think over time we'll start to find out. I hope that they stay around. I think the independent publishers, they bring something and challenge the big two. Okay. Challenge their creativity, challenge their product. Okay. The biggest thing I think when Marvel tried to do tried to test the lower grade paper, and then I got Alec on air holding up his new comic, and then it bends in half. Okay, what did that do? That actually helped all the indies. It pushed more people into us because we did not skimp on the paper because we can't afford to. Yeah. Okay? Whereas a larger, the big two, they can get away with it. They have so much revenue flow coming in somewhere. Okay, they can test these things. We can't. Okay, not us, not IDW, not anybody. Okay, who's an indie? So I don't know. I don't know where they're at, but I would say that if I'm looking at it purely from an analyst standpoint on Wall Street, I'm beginning to think, what are you going to do here? Yeah, okay? And the fact that they've made this sudden move, okay, is probably going to tend to make anybody that holds stock kind of nervous.
Yeah, for sure. IDW, they came onto the market and they made a big splash first up pretty much with 30 Days of Night, right? The Steve Niles, Ben Templesmith book that eventually got made into a movie. And then they had Like you mentioned, Winona Earp and Lock and Key. Lock and Key was successful for them. And here's a question that I'm very unsure on, and I'm sure it's different with each individual deal, each individual company, publisher, and whatnot, production company. But like, for instance, when Lock and Key gets made, like obviously they get an option, they get paid to be like, hey, we're going to option this, and then blah blah blah. When it gets developed, if it's successful, outside of just selling more product, does that financially benefit a publisher?
It depends. It depends on the IP itself. So if it's an IP that you've actually obtained from the property owner, okay, then no, it could, but it doesn't really help you because you don't own the IP. So when they go off and they make a movie or they stream it or a TV show, your involvement in that is minimal. Okay, because usually the way it's done is that intellectual property is divided into categories, right? So you're going to, as a comic book publisher, you want that IP. You're going to, I'll give you an example. Okay, a good one, I guess, through Dynamite. So we have our Disney license. We're publishing Darkwing Duck and we're publishing Gargoyles. But when Disney goes to make another movie or another TV show, obviously we benefit in that the comics we publish might be more popular, their sales will go up, but we would not benefit from that end of it, financially. And that makes sense. Why would they sign to us? We're not known as movie producers, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like IDW with Turtles. Like they don't make anything out of Turtles.
Exactly. Yeah. But if you own the IP in-house, then that's a different scenario, obviously. All right. So you do benefit from that. So, I know that IDW was getting a revenue stream from from things that were streaming. Okay. So like Lock and Key, I knew they were, they like in 2022, they showed, I forget how much, but obviously, or in 2021, I think, I forget which year, they showed, a net profit. Now they show zero because it's not streaming anymore. So that becomes a problem.
Yeah.
So,
and I think one of their biggest problems then is because their biggest successes over the last 10 years have been licensed books, Transformers, G.I. Joe, which they've lost those licenses. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, My Little Pony was big for them at some point. They've done great work with licensed material, but they don't have a lot of stuff that they own that's in-house that's been a hit because they had 30 Days a Night, they had Lock and Key, and it's kind of dried up. And not even Scott Snyder could get, he did that Wildfire book that I loved, but not even that really made any kind of movement in sales for IDW.
The world of a comic book publisher is tough. I mean, it is. You take a chance on an IP. Okay, a lot of people are involved in producing comic, and then you hope for the best. Okay, you put it out there and you hope for the best. And that's kind of the danger. Now, if you're going to get into the entertainment realm, this is where it gets a little, into the movies and streaming. That's where I think it gets a little risky. Okay, because as a comic book publisher, you don't really come from that world. Okay, so there are uniquenesses in everything that, so how do I put this? So we all fall under the umbrella of entertainment, if you will. Okay, whether it be comic book publishing or streaming or whatever. Same thing. Okay, so something like let's say vegetables and frozen foods all fall under the category of groceries, right? But how you deal with fresh vegetables and how you deal with frozen foods, totally different. How you ship it to the supermarket, totally different, right? How you get it ready for distribution, totally different. One is a perishable and one is a perishable but frozen. So even though they're the same category, they're completely different things that on how to deal with it, right? So I kind of think that's the problem when you're a comic book publisher, you get into entertainment. Maybe it's better off, and I don't know any specifics of how they did it, but in my view, isn't it better off to in that instance, if I own the IP, comic book is successful, we think it has legs as something that could be produced into a streaming show, and like so many have. Aren't you better off finding somebody who could produce it? Okay, licensing it to them in some agreement and collect the cash, right? And let them deal with it. And then if it works, great, you keep collecting cash based on however your deal is structured. Or it fails, well, we tried. Okay. Expense was borne by the production company. You collected your initial payment. There are no payments afterwards because it didn't work. Oh, well. But when you start to get into it and try to take too much of a share of the success, you also take a larger portion of the risk. And if it doesn't work, you swallow that risk too. You see? So again, I'm speaking in total generalities. I don't know anything specific. So 22 Comics says, I think this is where DC has made a huge step. They've been promos to comics to relate to movies come out after the trailer.
Promoting the comics after the trailers for their stuff, I think is a really cool thing. Evil Face Bad. So Usagi Yojimbo is owned by Stan Sakai. So his decision to move it back to Dark Horse from IDW, I don't know the exact reason why, but he had been at Dark Horse for a very long time, at least 30 years, right? So I'm pretty sure he just
it doesn't really, the funny thing is it doesn't really matter in the world of IP, the world of IP, because if you are licensing something and it's working, that agreement has a time frame, and that time frame expires. You have to be prepared that the property holder will just pull. He or she doesn't need any reason at all. The contract's over. I just, it could be, hey, Robbie, I don't like your beard, dude, so I'm pulling the license, bro. Okay. Yeah. I prefer you when you wear a hat. So you're not wearing a hat no more. License is pulled. I don't like it.
It could also be like,
have to give a reason.
It could also be like, hey, Stan, I know that the deal's about to end. We're not going to be able to renew it because we're going through some major shit right now. Like maybe they knew that. Maybe that was on the horizon already. Maybe. And this stuff just doesn't come out of nowhere. It may come out of nowhere to the employees when they had that call, yesterday. I mean, nobody wants to get that news and have that call, but we've all noticed that it hasn't been going well for IDW, right? And do you think that this, you've seen this happen with other companies, not just publishers, but other companies. Does it typically work out? Do you think that this could work out for IDW, the strategy?
I would say this, without knowing more specifics, I couldn't even tell you, because basically what they gave was just your common go-to response, for PR, but if you read it, very little of the information that they gave us is anything that you wouldn't get that publicly needs to be released, because they're a listed company with shares. So they didn't really say anything other than, I have new ideas about what direction we should move in. We're going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to work, and I have a tremendous work ethic, and we're going to try to unlock the untapped value to our IPs. What does that tell you? Nothing. When you take all that word salad out, it doesn't actually tell you anything. Okay. Other than, we had to delist to save money. We've got some money issues. We need to cut costs, start turning in a different direction. I mean, no public company in the history of the United States or the New York Stock Exchange ever came out and said, yeah, we're screwed, people. We're bleeding money and we are screwed. Okay, see you next shareholders meeting. Nobody ever says that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you really didn't say much at all. 22 Comics. What you said about DC, I agree with, but that's not a new idea. Actually, the first company to do that, I remember, on a mass scale was probably Mattel. And it was Barbie, believe it or not. It was brilliant what they did. They produced the DVD first, then they released the toys. Okay? All right. And my daughter was that age. Okay? She'd watch the video. And surprisingly, when I went to Toys R Us at October and November, oh my gosh, there's a whole row of these toys. What the hell? Oh, Daddy, I need that. I need that. I need that. Okay. It was, and those DVDs were never released anywhere. Okay. There was just the cost of producing them. Right. And then they sell them real cheap as a lost leader, and little girls will buy them. And we go home and we watch it. And the next time we went to Toys R Us, guess what? Shelves full of toys, the house, the car, the this, the that. Okay. Dad, I need it. Daddy, I need it. I need it. I need it. Man, that was, I remember going to Toys R Us going, that was marketing genius. What am I going to do? I knew exactly what you were doing, but my little kid is screaming for it. What am I going to do? Okay. I have the options of causing a scene and taking my screaming kid out of the Toys R Us, or I could just suck it up and just buy the damn house. okay, and the car, and all the supporting characters as well.
Yeah.
Okay, what am I going to do, right? So that to me was what DC is doing is very smart. I agree, but it's not anything new by any stretch of the imagination.
Gotcha. So where does IDW go from here? I guess time will tell. We'll see. I see in the chat, they don't really have an identity. Like who was it? Sees. Yeah, 22 said, to me, DC and Marvel are superhero, Image and Dark Horse are more horror themed. But what is IDW now? What is their brand? And OUG suggests maybe they should dive into sci-fi fantasy since they got the Star Trek thing. Maybe this. I get the desire to have your own IP being developed in-house, right? But it hasn't seemed to work for them. Maybe they can refocus on some stuff, but I don't know. But one thing they really do well is licensed work. And maybe they just need to focus on that for a while because their Turtles books sell really, really well. Their Transformers had a very dedicated following. So there's a lot of potential there. They got a lot of licenses, but those licenses don't come cheap sometimes, right? So I don't know. Well, where do they go? We'll see.
I think that the allure of Hollywood is a danger. Okay. It's really, really a danger. And I think that a lot of people that are not in that business get mesmerized by that possibility. Okay. What? I could be executive producer. Ooh, I could be a movie dude. Ooh, I could walk the red carpet, meet all kinds of celebrities. Okay. And the number of streaming shows and movies that fail before they ever hit the market is beyond, I mean, it's crazy if you look at it. So, it becomes that, I don't know, that kid that's really good at baseball that thinks that, he's going to get drafted and decides not to work hard in high school, doesn't get to college, and guess what? Doesn't get drafted. There are more kids like that than there are kids that, play in the show.
Yeah. One of the things they mentioned was that they still have deals out there where they got IP that's being developed, and we all know what that means. Everything gets optioned, but very few things get made, first of all, actually move forward, and then very few of those actually become something like The Walking Dead, And I think that's what they've been wanting and trying to build and trying to get. And like you said, the allure of Hollywood, the allure of TV, the allure of having somebody create something for you and then being able to turn that and then become like a mega mogul or something. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of stuff going on, right?
Well, a lot of people are coming up with great suggestions, and I think that you're right. I think that IDW is certainly known for Star Trek currently, and a lot of other stuff they do is great. But something my father told me when I was really young, which holds true even today, and on a corporate level, I've seen. You can talk about, we're revamping, we got to cut costs, but the real question is not how much you made, how much did you spend, right? So you can make, and that's a Tesla example as well. Well, we sold X number of cars. Did you make any money? Okay. So really, it's always a question when I look at any kind of corporate entity. Okay, sure, it's great. Okay, we had revenue of $100 million. We had revenue of $150 million over the year, and companies are the first to publicize that, right? Okay, we're a $100 million company. But what they don't want you to know is, yeah, but we spent $110 million last year. Okay, so we're actually 10 million in a hole. Okay, so to me, we haven't heard anything about that. So it's very hard to assess where they're going to go. They could hop on their IPs. They could increase sales over every title by 50%. That may not solve the problem because we don't know the key question. How much are you spending? How much do you need to spend? Now, clearly they were spending too much. If you're cutting, 40% of your staff, okay, clearly, and you have, you have in the bank not quite enough money to get through the year, then clearly you've been spending too much. Now the question is, where have you been spending it? That becomes a mystery. So if you don't have the answer to that question, you can't really tell what direction they're going in, okay? Because you don't know.
Yeah.
So I hope that everything's good from a human standpoint. There's still other people that work there. I think that you don't ever want to lose, indies in this industry. Not that we're against Marvel, DC. Obviously, we read them, we sell them, whatever. But we realize that they have an incredible advantage over us indies. They have endless pockets. Okay, I mean, look at Disney. My God, they can battle with an entire state. Okay, of Florida. Okay, I mean, I don't think most indies want to battle their township or their county, okay, let alone the entire state of Florida.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, they employ 70,000 people in Disney World. I mean, God, those are crazy numbers, aren't they?
Yeah.
So they have an advantage. But I think indies like ourselves, like IDW, like the others, we kind of challenge those big ones, because if we'll do things they won't do or they don't see as worthwhile, because we have to do it a different way to stay alive, right? Better paper stock. We have to make sure our stories are engaging and interesting. We have to make sure that our comics have that appeal. Okay. So whereas the big boys, they don't have to, they worry about it, but not as much. They don't have to worry about it as much. Okay. You know, we tried to introduce this title to lead into the movie. Yeah, the sales on the title sucked, but the movie did great.
Yeah.
You know, indies, we don't have that option. So our core product has to be our best product. And I think it's proven by you know, fan response, you know. But again, so I don't hope anything bad happens to them, but I'd say it's way too early to be able to tell anything.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's hard to see how the property owners are going to react to all this. You know, I don't know if they reach out to them ahead of time or not, but you know, that's going to cause some kind of waves. You know, if I were the property owner, I would be like, what's going on over there? I'd be making phone calls like, what's up with you guys? You going to be able to pay my royalty payments next month? What's the deal here? Okay. So it does, unfortunately, and that unfortunately is the downside of a small company going public, because all this stuff has to be revealed, right? So if you're a private company, there's a limit to what you have to reveal. You don't ever have to show anybody your books. Okay. All right. I mean, theoretically, you could make the excuse, we laid off 40% of our staff because they all sucked. I mean, nobody says that, but you know what I'm saying, right? You don't have to reveal anything.
Yeah.
So that's the danger. Okay. That's the danger of going public like that. But you know, as I said, I hope the best for them, for the employees, and obviously as a fellow independent publisher, I think our presence is necessary. I think they've done great work with the IP that they've had, as Chris G has said, as OUG has said, you know, Star Trek, Sonic, you know, all of it. So I hope that this is really just a reorganization, and they're going to focus back on publishing and be able to come out of this. All right. You never wish anything bad on anybody in the industry. Obviously, we're in the world per se.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, Twitter, I got to be honest with you. I'm kind of like watching this car accident happen, man. It's like every day there's something new. But how am I related to Twitter? I'm not even on Twitter. I mean, come on. Yeah. So to me, it's like watching a drama or something, you know, like CSI, an episode of CSI. It's like, yeah, what's going on now?
Well, Rex, I really do appreciate your expertise and perspective on this issue, and we'll definitely be following it as this continues to develop, and we'll be paying close attention to what IDW does and the moves they make and all that stuff. So what's coming up, Rex? What you guys got?
Well, we got Nick tonight, of course, at 7 p.m. on The Experience for his original art show. Some great pieces there, so you're going to want to tune in. We also have Amy and I will be on with Bueller at 4 p.m. Eastern today. To do a show with Bueller to keep the Bueller bus going. And also, for anybody that's watching, we also do have a Shopify store for Robbie. He's going to throw the link up. There's tons of stuff on there. We have Silver Age books. We have graded. We have signed books. We have retailer incentives. We have sketch covers. It's all up there. Portion of proceeds go to Robbie to help him keep his channel moving, help him grow. So every purchase that you make helps out our buddy Robbie. You know, keep doing his thing. And, you know, if you're a fan of Robbie's, you know how fantastic some of the stuff is that he does.
Well, thank you. And it's the second link I put up. Y'all accidentally sent the StreamYard link. So if anybody wanted to join us, I guess they could do that real quick. But
be like Zoom. We'll get all these little windows.
Absolutely. So check out those shows. We'll be over at the EXP on Monday night for our Comic Collectibles show. That's always fun, talking about
nonsense. We had lots of fun last Monday. We had Ken Hazer in the house.
Yeah, we did. Fun.
So, yeah, that was a good time. Yeah, that was a good time. So So, you know, you can go anytime, go to the link, shop around. Next week we're going to add some more books. We're probably going to rotate some books out. I didn't get a chance to do it today, unfortunately. It's just been such a busy week, but we try to keep it fresh. Ridiculous prices. I think once a week we're going to have a crazy PCP discount on a certain book or something. All right, and I'm thinking maybe next Friday we'll do a giveaway. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Why not? We haven't done a giveaway on this show in a while, so we'll do a giveaway next week. Everybody, be sure to let everybody
don't even know what it is. Just like we don't know what the topic is until Friday morning.
Yep, we never do. I want to encourage everybody to check out Dylan's Horror Show tomorrow, as they're going to be discussing The Dentist 1 and 2, and then PCP Movie Night on Monday. This is the audience choice. Y'all picked this one for us. We're doing Dread, the 2012 one with Carl Urban, not the Sylvester Stallone one.
I think we've talked about this before. I was with the Urban Dread. I'm just going to tell you this. The movie just didn't work for me, man.
When I watched it the first time, I loved it. I loved the insanity of it. I loved the violence. I watched it at the theater in 3D. Watching it at home, not in 3D, I'm getting really annoyed at the slow-mo, like all the slow motion stuff. I'm just getting I'm like, come on. This movie's really an hour long, but you slow up so much of it, you make it an hour and a half. Come on.
I don't know. It compared to the first movie, there was so much more going on in the first movie, you know? And I realized, I know Sly Stallone would wear the helmet minimally because he didn't want to cover up his pretty face, I guess. But it was just, I don't know. The whole movie, it had humor, it had, drama, it had the action, it had everything. Urban's was like, So you're stuck in a really big high-rise building. Okay. Been there, done that. So I came, and I like Carl Urban. I thought he, when they had trailers out and he had the helmet on, I thought he fit the role. But I thought that the screenplay was horrible. I really did.
Well, it's definitely going to make an interesting discussion. All right, y'all. We're taking off. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you. Check out Nick's show. Check out Bueller Show with Rex and check us all out.
Uh-oh.
We'll see you guys.